You know what's strange? We talk endlessly about boomers and millennials. We analyze Gen Z like they're some kind of fascinating new species. But there's an entire generation that quietly exists in the middle, barely mentioned, almost invisible. Generation X. They're your older coworkers who rarely complain, your parents who seem oddly calm during chaos, the people who helped build the internet but rarely feel the need to post about their breakfast. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Psychologically, they might be the most misunderstood generation alive. If you've ever met someone who seems extremely independent, someone who doesn't panic when things fall apart, someone who quietly solves problems instead of talking about them, there's a good chance you're looking at someone shaped by Gen X psychology. These are the people who rarely ask for help, not because they're arrogant, but because they learned very early in life that help wasn't always available. So they adapted, and that adaptation shaped the way they think, the way they work, and the way they move through the world today. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. School just ended. Most kids are being picked up by their parents, but you start walking home alone. You unlock the front door to an empty house. No smartphone, no security cameras, no way for anyone to check if you made it home safely. You make yourself a snack, turn on the television, maybe start your homework, and then you wait for hours. This wasn't unusual. By the early 1980s, millions of children across America were regularly coming home to empty houses after school. An entire generation growing up as what psychologists later called latchkey kids. And something subtle happened inside their psychology. They learned that responsibility didn't arrive slowly. It arrived immediately. When children are placed in situations where they must manage themselves, their brains adapt quickly. Psychologists sometimes describe this environment as a high-contingency environment. In simple terms, it means actions and consequences are tightly connected. If you forgot your homework, no one reminded you. If you made a mess, you cleaned it up. If something went wrong, you figured it out. Your brain learned something powerful. Your life is your responsibility. That lesson doesn't disappear when childhood ends. It becomes a personality trait, which is why many Gen X adults appear unusually self-reliant, not because independence was encouraged, because it was required. But independence wasn't the only thing shaping their worldview. Generation X grew up during a time when the world itself felt unstable. The Cold War hung quietly in the background. Schools practiced duck and cover drills for nuclear attacks. Teachers talked about world destruction like it was just another safety precaution. Imagine being 10 years old and hearing adults calmly explain what to do when the world ends. That kind of environment creates a strange psychological habit. You learn to live with uncertainty. You learn to hold two conflicting thoughts at once. Everything is fine, and everything could fall apart tomorrow. That mental flexibility became part of Gen X humor. Sarcasm, irony, dark jokes. It wasn't just entertainment, it was emotional armor. There was another lesson quietly unfolding during their childhood. Adults kept promising stability. Work hard, follow the rules, life will reward you. But Gen X watched those promises break. Divorce rates climbed through the 1970s and 1980s. Companies laid off loyal employees overnight. Governments stumbled through political scandals and economic instability. Kids notice these things, even if no one explains them. So many Gen X adults developed a subtle skepticism toward institutions. Not rebellion, just realism. Psychologists sometimes call this defensive pessimism. Expect the best, but prepare for disappointment. And for Gen X, that wasn't negativity. It was survival strategy. One of the most distinctive parts of Gen X psychology shows up at work. They rarely talk about hustle culture. They don't post motivational quotes. They simply work. That mindset started early, long before internships or LinkedIn profiles existed. Many Gen X kids had jobs before they were even teenagers. paper routes before sunrise, bagging groceries, working fast food counters where you had to calculate change in your head if the machine failed. These weren't resume builders. They were introductions to adult responsibility. A 12-year-old delivering newspapers to an entire neighborhood learns something important. People depend on you. That lesson stays for life. Because of that upbringing, Gen X tends to care less about recognition and more about competence. They don't need constant praise. They want to know the job was done correctly. And there's a deeper reason for that. They watched their parents' generation trust companies with total loyalty, only to lose jobs during corporate restructuring. So Gen X made a quiet psychological adjustment. Don't rely on the system, rely on your skills. There's another experience that shaped their thinking. Gen X grew up learning without instant answers. If you wanted information, you went to a library. You searched through physical card catalogs. You hunted for the right book. Sometimes you spent hours looking for a single piece of knowledge. That effort changed the way information felt. Psychologists describe this as effortful learning. When knowledge requires work to obtain, it becomes more deeply encoded in memory, which is why many Gen X adults developed strong problem-solving instincts. They learned how to learn, not just how to search. The truth is, Generation X sits in a unique position in modern history. They remember life before the internet, but they helped build the digital world we live in today. They grew up with analog childhoods and adapted to digital adulthood. They are the bridge between two completely different eras, and bridges rarely get attention. They simply hold things together. If you look closely at Gen X psychology, you'll see something powerful. A child who learned independence early, a teenager who learned skepticism during uncertain times, an adult who learned resilience through economic upheaval. All of those experiences created a generation that appears calm on the surface, but carries incredible adaptability underneath. They don't panic easily. They've already seen systems fail. They've already rebuilt from scratch, more than once. Maybe that's the real story of Generation X. Not louder, not more dramatic, just quietly durable. They are the generation that learned to be alone with their thoughts, to solve problems without instant answers, to prepare for uncertainty without announcing it. They were shaped during a moment in history when the old world was fading and the new one hadn't fully arrived, which might explain why they often seem comfortable standing in between, holding things together, expecting nothing in return. And maybe that quiet resilience is the most Gen X trait of all. If this perspective helped you understand Generation X a little better, or maybe helped you understand yourself, consider subscribing for more psychology deep dives into human behavior and the hidden forces that shape how we think, work, and live.